Hi everyone, it's your friend CCP Convict here with the final in this series of what we refer to as our Eve Evolved program. Eve Evolved is an ongoing process at CCP where we work on the technical and graphical foundations of EVE Online, and every year we have a little cluster of updates that get released around the same time for you. A few weeks ago, we came out with the new Neocom updates, which lets you change the colors and added the corp palette to the character sheets and the station hangers. And last time we spoke, we was talking about Aura Guidance, which is a new way for new players to interact and get familiar with the game. This time around, we're calling it Sharper Skies, and it's a renovation to minerals and ore ships with a VFX pass on them. And to join me to talk about those, I have CCP BlueScreen and CCP LeftRook. How are you doing?
Good.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to beg your indulgences here a little bit, because normally what would happen is I would just launch straight into the talking about the contents of the blog and the work that you've done. But having you two is actually kind of cool for me, because when I was thinking about, what will I talk to these two guys about? I thought to myself, CCP BlueScreen has actually been at CCP for a long time. And wait a minute, so is CCP LeftRook. So I did a bit of stalking within the acceptable boundaries of corporate HR. And you've been working at CCP BlueScreen for 17 years and 8 months. Yeah, and right. LeftRook, you've been here for 18 years and 8 months. You basically started 1 year after him.
Long time.
It is, man. When you started CCP, Revelations 1 was the live expansion. And if I've got it right, you started on the day that Trinity launched.
Yeah, just right. Yeah, it could be right around there or right after. Yeah, it had just launched. I remember some of the first things I worked on was like when we did like
your microphone has drooped.
Oh,
bring it up.
How do you? There you go.
Just wrench it. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember like when we were working on one of the first things I did was like do like 2 variations of JumpGate, because there was a premium client and a standard client when there was 2 different clients.
2 different downloads. Yeah, you could get one. You could download the base client. Then there's a high res texture pack. You
have better memory than me. I don't remember anything what I was doing back then.
I just thought it was interesting that like you were just before Trinity and you were at the kickoff of Trinity, because you probably dodged a bullet on that one, because Trinity, the whole thing about Trinity was it was a massive overhaul to the graphics engine of EVE Online and new rendering techniques and probably some model updates. I'm not entirely sure on that. So you probably had to...
They were long hours.
Yeah, but not you. So you just skated in. Like, job's done, and then you show up at CCP.
And so actually when I mentioned like the first thing I worked on, that's probably a bit later than when I started, because I actually started at CCP working on a different game than EVE Online.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Then like, get in and start modeling over here, Ned.
So I just started. So we're when I was hired, I was
it World of Darkness?
On the World of Darkness IP for a few years before I actually started on EVE. So that was probably 1.5 or 2 years before I started working on EVE.
Yeah, right on. Yeah. And something else that I remembered when I was sort of like, digging through your histories was FanFest 2011 when CCP LeftRook.
Oh my God.
Faced off in the Brains vs. Pain or something like that? Brains vs. Pain? It was a chess boxing.
Painful memories. Very painful memories.
Because you were the chess guy.
Yes.
And I can't remember the name of the other developer in this video. But
Danny.
He was the boxing guy.
Yeah, he was former Icelandic champion.
Oh, wow. So you had to go and spar with him.
Yes.
And all he had to do was play chess with you. But you came out on top.
Yeah, I somehow managed to survive. I don't know how.
I think there was a broken rib in there.
Yeah, I had 2 broken ribs.
Yeah, right. Incredible that you managed to soldier on. Like
the doctor was very angry when I described what has happened, and he said, "Don't do that at your age."
I'm not sure if you're joking or not.
No.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay,
he got angry. Cool. The doctor was angry.
Take one for the team, man. That's really cool.
It was epic. It was epic having like a boxing ring at FanFest and all that stuff. And we had like UFC fighters there. And everything. Yeah, it was really cool.
There's been some really cool things at FanFest over the years. By the way, FanFest in May. Make sure you come. It's going to be awesome. All right. Enough of the stroller down memory lane, but it's very cool to speak to like a couple of CCP luminaries who have been here for such a long time. One day I'll have to try and catch you like in the cantina at lunchtime and just like get some war stories out of you. That would be sweet.
Yeah.
Sure. All right. But let's talk a little bit about Sharper Skies, this thing here, which is the, as I said in the intro, we've just the third in our series of 3 elements of this current sort of round of EVE Evolved. And for this one, we've sort of like kind of keeping in theme with Catalyst here, we've given a lot of attention to some of the things that miners will hopefully see a lot of and appreciate. That is like a big renovation to the asteroids in space and a VFX pass on all of the primary mining ships that players will be using in the game. So let's start out talking about the asteroids. We've got a couple of little shots here. If you've read the dev blog, these will be familiar to you. If you haven't read the dev blog, go read it after this, but pretend that that is, you know, the supplement to this, not the other way around, because this is the most important thing, I think, actually getting to talk to the developers who worked on these features. So here we have the asteroids that were and ice. So, so we went through and this was identified as an area that we could do a little bit of work on because players often get up and close to the and spend a lot of time right in front of them.
Yeah, I mean, we've been renovating like almost everything through the game. We try and get through everything, renovate all the ships and all the structures, stations and hangars and all that stuff. But asteroids we haven't touched in a long, long time. And like, it isn't that many. So see here, there's like, you know, 5 base models. They all have like 4 variations, but it's still, that's the extent of it. So so we thought, okay, it's time to update these asteroids after we had done a lot of like with the ore ships and the mining experiences. Like maybe let's
right on. And this kind of illustrates the problem. This slide here.
Yeah. So they're old and they and when they scale scale basically with the amount of ore that is in the asteroid. It just makes them bigger and bigger. The more ore that is in more quantity of ore, and when they reach a certain scale, of course, the textures can't follow in quality.
Obviously, in the asteroid here on the right, particularly around that big crater, and also to the right-hand side of it, you can see what looks like the textures are blurred and stretched.
And also just like the shape language of the asteroid breaks down. It's like weird to have, you know, because like a pebble doesn't look like a boulder and a boulder doesn't look like a mountain. So like when something gets much bigger, it looks different. In this case, it just like scales up.
It's just, and that kind of looks a bit samey, but copy-pasty when you've got like an asteroid field that's full of them. So here's one of the steps that we took. So the top row is the models, if I understand correctly, for the asteroids as they were, and the bottom row is the models after they've had just some more fidelity injected into them. So
yeah, so the top row is the old like low polish. So and the bottom ones are just the high polish we made, modeled after like the old ones to keep the shape language, but like just more fidelity, and stuff like. So this is like what is now like the medium-sized asteroids, basically.
Right. And we also expanded the number of asteroid shapes that are available for each type. So you were telling me before, this middle row, so basically every asteroid in the game, Veldspar, Squardite, and so forth, had 4 variants, which is essentially what you see here on the middle row.
Yeah.
And now we've added smaller and larger variants. So now each asteroid basically has 12 variants instead of just the 4.
Yeah.
So how does it actually work? Because before you would just enlarge the asteroid, right?
Yeah. So before you would just have the middle row there, and that would just scale down or up depending on quantity, and it would just be the same model always, but it would just get smaller and bigger. Now it still happens. It grows larger and smaller depending on quantity, but at a certain threshold size, it switches to like the small model or the big model and stuff like that. So it switches model.
Right. So
basically,
so now the game has 12 sizes to choose from in order to populate the asteroid belts instead of just 4, which it stretches. So that brings that sort of like, you know, the visual diversity of the asteroid belts will increase a great deal now.
So this is something we're going to fiddle with for a while because it's a little bit tricky to figure out where are those thresholds, where do we want them to flip, like to a bigger one, a small one, because it's a little bit dependent on what is the size distribution of asteroids in the game. And they're very different, like rocks, like Veldspar has a very big distribution in quantity of ore, while crystals are very narrow in that space. So
more exotic ones are a little more
rare.
Yeah,
also maybe too narrow. So we might want to look at changing the distribution, something like that at some point, so we get more size difference, basically.
Right.
But so that's something we're going to play a bit with in the upcoming time.
And this is an example of the effect of the scaling. We'll see another slide in a minute, which I think illustrates this point a lot. But previously, say you just had the middle asteroid to work with. If you enlarge that to turn into a big asteroid, the crystals would have scaled up in proportion to everything else, right? So it would look like the same asteroid like we've been talking about.
Yeah.
But now, when you get to the larger asteroids, the crystals jutting out of it kind of remain at the same size. There's just more of them.
Yeah.
So it actually makes it look like a physically larger object, and you use the crystals as like the visual anchor for like what the scale of the thing is supposed to be, right?
Exactly.
I feel like I'm telling you what you're supposed to be saying, but
exactly
like...
true. And the same with like all the features in the rock as well. Like and stuff like that. Those gets more of those. It isn't that they just get bigger. It gets more of them, and the shape language of the rock should also like indicate that it's a larger rock, not just a scaled up rock.
I suppose, yeah, and I suppose when you say the shape language, you're talking about how the bigger they get, the sort of more rounder they get.
Yeah, and like more ridges, the ridges and edges on it stay the same size. You look at the small one there, it doesn't have as many, it doesn't have a million tiny little ridges on it. It's a more simple rock, and then you get more and more surface detail and smaller surface detail, the bigger, like on the medium one and on the larger one, right? So
when the art team is told to like, hey, go and renovate asteroids, was the team basically like, all right, we got to hit the books and figure out our plan of attack? Or was it more like, oh, thank God, finally, we know exactly what we want to do here, and we'll just like...
Yeah, no, I mean, we've been talking about it and thinking about it for a long time. I think it comes from us. We pitched it, and like we kind of started with it, so it kind of comes from us anyways, and we had a pretty good idea of what we wanted to do.
Do you know roughly when the last time asteroids were like touched in any way might have been?
Actually, I don't. It's been a long time. It's probably right around when... It could go all the way back to Trinity, or not far after that. Yeah, around Trinity. So probably right around when I started.
If anyone would know, it would be you guys.
Probably when I started. Like, they might have small tweaks in between, but like the models and stuff has remained the same.
Yes,
probably.
they're the same.
Yeah.
Oh, and just like different rendering techniques and things like that.
Yeah, then we've updated the textures and changed to
basic shape.
But the shape and with the models and the textures have changed the same, except for us changing shaders and stuff like that. But yeah, pretty much the same content as from like 18 years ago then.
Damn. All right. So in need of a refresh, and man, they really got it too. So we mentioned at the top of this that ICE had also gotten some attention as well.
Yeah, so ICE is one of the places where we did not copy the shape language of the existing ones. So they were much smoother, and we went with a more like glacier, iceberg kind of design for the ice in this case. I believe there's already a post on the forums on this subject, so we dared and changed something. We'll see how. But again, like, so we have like a batch of medium, smalls, and big ones, and they're all like much more blocky and iceberg types. But we can always like throw more variations and smoother ones into these buckets. We can always extend on the buckets, and the system just picks them randomly. So if we would add 2 more medium ones or 2 more large ones, it's just to add them to that bucket, and poof, they would be like everywhere in the game. So it's super easy for us to like add more and stuff like that.
It's almost like a loot table. You know?
It basically is.
The game engine is spawning the site, and it just goes to the things that are on the table, and this is the things that could be in there, and it populates it with them.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So you just add to the table, and you don't have to like do any sort of engineering work to like get the game to pick them up.
Dungeon authoring work. We don't have to touch the asteroid belts or anything like that. If I add like a new one in there, it's just going to appear everywhere in the game automatically.
That is most excellent. Yeah. And this is the sort of the one I was alluding to before. So you've got the new asteroids on the outside and the old ones on the inside. And it's the old column on the right, which sort of kind of illustrates that point I was talking before, where you have the asteroid, essentially the same asset, just scaling up, and the crystal scaling up with it, almost to like an almost like comical degree, you would probably say.
Yeah, and these ones, these are really good for that example, because these crystals here would get really large, and it would also just really show create repetitiveness in the belts. You would have these giant crystals just everywhere, and it would just look like the same. Oh, it was also the same asteroid duplicated 100 times. But
visibly the same.
And just getting huge, these crystals. So yeah, this is definitely exactly what we were trying to address.
Right on. Yeah. All right, now let's talk about these. I just found these pictures from the dev blog.
Yeah,
I don't know what they mean, but I want to read you a quote. It says, "In Houdini, we were able to set up preset files to handle all of the different asteroid types and defining features. Once we created the low poly assets, including UVs." We could bake information from the high poly UVs, such as normals, occlusion, and convex, concave maps, etc. What are those things?
So it's basically like creating from the high poly, which has like, millions of triangles. You create a asteroid version that has maybe 25,000 triangles, which you can then actually put in the game.
Because that's obviously a need for performance, right?
Yeah,
if you have an asteroid belt with all these assets with millions of polys, smoke's going to start coming out of your GPU.
Yeah, pretty much.
We did that with Captain's Quarters. Yeah. We don't want to.
No,
back.
I guess that's and then I guess one of the worries with mining, and the first thing I guess most miners will be thinking about is like,
Yeah.
can I still multi-mine?
You warp
with
into a
all my
belt just
characters?
as you're about to
Yeah.
land. The little Windows hourglass comes
Yeah.
up. Anyway,
But no, it's basically a setup in Houdini is nice where we create a template file where I can input a high poly
Mhm.
asteroid of any type, and then it creates a low poly version. It maps the UV texturing thing. It's basically mapping the entire surface to a flat UV space, so you can texture it.
Yep.
And then output that in the end. And that way, if we make a new asteroid, we can just plug it into this file, and it's automatically going through this process and then making the textures, and then we have a new asteroid. So it's super easy for us to add additional asteroids at this point because we have these template files.
Super cool. And this is kind of like it all kind of this is the before and after, right? This is the
So
new asteroid on the left and the old one on the right. It's night and day when you actually put them together side by side, and how much crisper and just more realistic.
Yeah,
The one on
exactly.
the
That
left
was
looks-
also one of the points to really get away from this more cartoony look and get to a realistic surface up close as well. So on the new asteroids, we're also tiling textures more, and the bigger they get, the more tiled textures. So like this detail and what's called texel density, basically the density of the texture on the surface.
Yeah.
Compared per pixel.
And we have much better resolution now than
Yeah, much better.
in the old days.
Yes. So this texture on the right on the old asteroid is 1K texture, basically 1,000 pixels times 1,000 pixels, and it's been that way for 18 years. So on the other side, you have many textures working together, but like a 2,000 by 2,000 textures that are tiled like 4 times, and then unique normal map and stuff like that. So yeah,
I don't know if I don't know how you guys consider it, but people talk about immersion in video games a lot to the point that where it can get a little bit memey. But when you actually consider the before and after shot here, like if you're mining and you take a look at that rock on the right, you're playing a video game. Like it because of the way the textures are behaving, especially when it gets to around the crater and stuff like that. But when you switch over to what is on the left there, and it looks like a photorealistic depiction of an asteroid or a rock or something like that, it just helps to sort of like keep you in the moment, doesn't it?
That's the hope. Yeah, that's the idea.
You're thinking about how cool that
definitely.
asteroid looks, not like, it's like, CCP sure haven't renovated this asset in a long time.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure everyone's asking themselves daily, but
and then it becomes a real mismatch between the rocks and, for example, the ships, because we have been updating the ships.
You're right.
And then you fly in front of a 18-year-old rock, and you see it's basically from a separate
That's a good
era.
point, because the contrast
that breaks the immersion, basically.
That's a good point,
That's
too.
what we want to.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. Like if you're updating the ships and stuff like that, and you look at that frigate there, and you just see some detail. It has like super crispy small details, while like a little line there is like, and then you look at these big splotches and stuff on the asteroid behind. It doesn't match up very nicely.
Yeah, that's the end result. You get this beautiful cinematic looking scenes and asteroid belts with like diverse, interesting looking, realistic looking asteroids, and you mix it in with the things like the God rays that we have here. Looks really, really cool. And the actual asteroid belts themselves will have a whole bunch of extra cosmetic stuff in them that's still there. All the sort of the pebbles that's scattered throughout it. Which is really cool. So that was one component of the Sharper Skies release for EVE Evolve that we just had. The other one was this sort of like renovation to all the mining ships, which is something that you, CCP LeftRook, were like pretty involved with.
Yes.
So in terms of goals there, was it just like continuation of work that we'd done recently? Because I know we've done the wiki ships and a whole bunch of others.
Doing it for quite a while. We kind of started with going through all the frigates. So we updated all the frigates in the game. And for the last expansion, we did the war destroyers too. And then we look at the rest of the warships and said, okay,
it's kind of the same thing you would describe before, where like you've just put out these new ore destroyers with a certain degree of visual fidelity, and now they're kind of like now their cousins seem to be lacking a little bit when you put them side by side. So this is what you turn your attention next to. So this is the before shot of the venture.
Yes. So we started with the frigates, and there you can see there are a few lights there, and pretty much nothing.
And now we get like more like this.
Yes. Even though still the image doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't really convey it because this is all animated and everything.
Yeah. But we are taking a lot of elements from the destroyers that we did.
Mhm.
So we are trying to keep it consistent, similar type of effects.
Mhm.
And it's all tied to the state of the ship. If it's mining, then this comes on and this turns off if you're warping.
Mhm.
And then we have a new set of lights that we call smart lights
Mhm.
that are much easier to render.
Yeah.
Like 30 or 40% cheaper.
All right, so sort of
holds,
efficiency gains there.
efficiency there. So we are swapping out old lights for the new ones. And
like you pointed out too, is like these are obviously still videos, so I urge you to log in and check them out if you want to try these out. But the ships just are so much busier now, you know. And these are industrial ships; they're working ships. Yeah. So when you're here's the prospect.
But it's a very fine balance because you don't want to make them look like Christmas trees.
Yeah.
It's very easy to go there.
Yeah.
So at some point you want to stop.
Yeah, because everything in these shots is basically everything all at once.
Yes.
Whereas like they're not just going to be perpetually on like that.
And sometimes it's can be quite hard if you're working with an old asset to find the spots to put the VFX on. Because now, kind of when we are designing the new ships, we always keep that in mind. Okay, we have to do a VFX pass in the end.
Yeah.
So we put vents where we want smokes to come out of. And every place that we think would look nice with VFX on, we design it already in the ship. But that was not done in the past.
Right.
Because we didn't have much VFX.
You weren't thinking about that.
And then you have to kind of start being smart about it, finding places where to add.
Where were good logical places to add interest and things like that through.
Yeah.
It's cool. The Chili Boy, the Endurance. Yeah. I spent a lot of time looking at this ship during the last Winter Nexus when I was just like mining ice with my 5 alts. I'm looking forward to next Winter Nexus now. I'll be zoomed in a hell of a lot more, that's for sure, to see all this sort of stuff. And you also did the Noctis, everyone's favorite salvaging ship.
Yep.
Gave it a lot more interest and a lot more lights. And then we have the Porpoise as well, its cousin. And obviously the Pre-May got the same treatment, but I didn't include it in this deck because you by now you should sort of get the idea. So probably can't ask you what's next because you know you might have a what's next right now, but they might not be the actual what's next. You know, as the months go on, we get closer to the expansion. But is there broadly an intent in art to continue these kinds of VFX renovations on other ships?
Absolutely. We are just going pile through the list and probably gonna go through the rest of the warships. A few left, and I don't know. I can't promise when.
Sure.
But when we have time, and for sure there are many ships in the game that still
need a bit of love.
Need some love.
Yeah, I know, and it's cool when it's like particularly if it's a lot of people have a favorite ship or just a ship that's sort of sentimental towards them, and when it gets like a little bit of love from CCP, it's really cool. I think the Venture is going to be one of those ships. The Venture is like the most popular ship in the game if you just base it on the amount of people who use it, the amount of time in it, because it's like the ubiquitous new player ship, and you know you only get to make a first impression once. And so when a new player is sort of graduate, they get a beautiful looking Asteroid, they get to try that in the NPE, and then they get their rookie ships, which have already had this treatment with the VFX passes and things like that. But then eventually they make them one of the first ships they'll get into to sort of start their sort of career in EVE Online will be the Venture. So them warping into these gorgeous looking belts, mining these asteroids in these really cool looking ships is just that little bit extra incentive that's going to make them give them the itch to want to log back in, I think, which is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it would be sad to go in the mining belt on a Venture, and then you look at the new destroyer site, and that's all beautiful with all the kinds of effect.
I was like, man, I'm stuck with this thing.
Why am I stuck with this thing?
This ghetto Venture.
Why are everybody flying this? So that's of course, we just bring it up to standard.
All right.
Just
cool.
Give us time.
Yeah. We'll get there. We're still going.
Really
all right, that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover. So thanks a lot for coming to talk about this stuff. Great work, by the way. I really think this stuff is awesome. And that sort of concludes this round of EVE Evolved. We'll be doing, obviously, the improvements to the EVE's engine and, the tech and the graphics and the sound and everything is an ongoing project at CCP. It's not like we're just going to forget about this because every expansion, every major update that we do is going to feature some of this stuff, and we'll just have other stuff to ship whenever it's ready. But the next EVE Evolve will the official Eve Evolve will probably be, you know, either in the break between the next 2 expansions or maybe early next year, but there'll still be improvements coming all this time. The major update is just around the corner. I've been seeing what they've been cooking for that. That's really, really cool. And then we're going to go into FanFest and launch into the next expansion in a couple of months. So there's going to be a lot of stuff happening. So thanks a lot.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.